Welcome to the Cynefin bite-sized training focusing on agency, which was one of the 5 elements of wellbeing we've heard from pupils, staff and parents and carers, underpins whole school wellbeing and so brings benefits to everyone. We have 4 other pre-recorded sessions on the other 4 elements of wellbeing: safety, love and care, belonging and efficacy. So if you haven't already, we'd love you to check out those sessions as well. And just to add, we'd also be very happy to come and offer a more in-depth session bespoke to your school setting around any of the elements of wellbeing if that was of use, or to come and meet with SLT to think about agency in your school community. Just to introduce myself, I'm Katie. I'm one of the psychologists in the Cynefin team. Any one of us within the team would be happy to meet with you within your settings. Before we dive into thinking about agency, we just wanted to tell you a little bit about Cynefin and what we offer. Alongside our values, our vision principles set the direction for how we engage with schools and communities, shaping the impact we strive to achieve. Firstly, valuing relationships and learning is central to Cynefin's philosophy. We believe that strong, supportive connections within and between schools are essential for thriving communities. This principle drives us to foster environments where everyone feels valued and actively engaged. We also want to support the co-creation of wellbeing, as we acknowledge that wellbeing cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach. We collaborate with school leaders, staff and parents to cultivate conditions that support mental, emotional and social wellbeing. By co-creating these environments, we ensure that wellbeing initiatives are meaningful and sustainable. Finally, empowering sustainable change is about helping school communities navigate change constructively. Change can be challenging, but with the right support, it's become an opportunity for growth. Our goal is to equip schools with the tools and confidence to embrace change and drive lasting progress. These vision principles guide us in building a resilient, collaborative and future-focused educational landscape where every school community has the capacity to flourish. At Cynefin, our values are the foundation of our approach, and they define how we work alongside school communities and parents and carers with empathy and purpose. Firstly, we value early intervention and prevention, as they highlight the importance of addressing issues proactively. By intervening early, we can support sustainable growth and prevent challenges from escalating, creating stable, nurturing environments for everyone. Contexts recognise that every school is unique. We tailor our support to each school's specific needs, ensuring our approach is inclusive and respectful for all involved in children's education. Finally, we value inclusion, equity and voice. They represent our commitment to fairness and open communication. Every individual in the school community should have equal opportunities and a voice in shaping their environment. This value fosters shared ownership and collaboration, building a positive, inclusive culture. Together, these values guide us as we work to enhance wellbeing and educational outcomes across school communities and in partnership with parents and carers. Our offer is designed to meet the varied needs of school communities through targeted support and professional development. We provide professional learning and development through bite-sized sessions, as well as in-depth training on wellbeing components. For schools with specific needs, we offer bespoke support, including whole school approaches and the use of spirals of inquiry to address improvement priorities. Reflective supervision is also central to our work. We facilitate individual or group sessions that celebrate, support and strengthen professional practice and wellbeing. We're also exploring additional areas, such as piloting head teacher supervision, as well as other pilot projects, for instance, designing a project to build a sense of belonging within school communities. In addition, we're developing digital wellbeing resources and parent webinars to extend our support to families, recognising the essential role of parents and carers in the wellbeing journey. These offerings are tailored to work collaboratively with school leaders and educators, ensuring that our support is both research informed and aligned with each school's unique needs. So to start our thinking in this session, we'd like to ask you to pause for a moment and to think about a time when you didn't feel listened to, when you were told you had to do something that you found really difficult or that you disagreed with and that you were given no choice in. What would it be like if it was something you absolutely couldn't get out of? For an example, that might be being given a task that went against your values, or an aspect of your job where you didn't feel you had the skills to do it. What was that like? What impact did it have on you? What did it stop you from doing? Take a moment to pause and think about that. We hope that this has given you some food for thought in terms of the impact of not having agency in certain situations. And we know the research shows that a lack of agency, choice and control can have a negative impact on well-being and mental health. We've taken a moment to think about what it's like not to have agency, and we hope that that moment to pause has helped you to begin thinking about why a sense of agency is important within school communities. To bring this to life, we wanted to share with you some quotes from across our school communities in Gwent. A pupil in a school told us that when your voice is listened to in school, it feels welcoming and warming, so that you feel you do really belong in the school. A member of staff told us that it is important for children to realise that they can change the world, that their voice is really important, and that they are able to change the future. Another pupil told us that having a teacher that makes me feel expressive and letting me explain what I'm feeling makes me feel safe. These quotes also show how agency can link in with some of our other elements of well-being, such as helping to promote a sense of belonging and a sense of safety. So what is the definition of agency and how does it fit in with the other well-being needs? For those of you that have watched our other sessions, you'll see that we need some of the other elements of well-being to be in place in order to experience a sense of agency. They are all interconnected. Agency is about feeling sufficiently safe and supported within our relationships to take action. However, as we've said, on the flip side, that sense of agency can also influence and increase a sense of safety for children and for staff, and increase a sense of belonging. Agency is the power to make your own decisions in everyday life, and therefore the opposite of agency would be a sense of being controlled by others. This is food for thought in that traditionally there's been an emphasis on children doing as they're told by adults in schools, and indeed schools are often hierarchical by their very nature, with Estyn and a Welsh government also influencing governance. Of course, schools and staff have a job to do. Some things are understandably mandatory, and it is important that there are rules and boundaries for children in school to help create safety. But again, it's helpful to think about when it is possible for everyone within school communities to have some agency. So just to break things down a little further to really understand what we mean when we talk about agency. We think about having a voice and being heard. We think about feeling valued and about being noticed or recognised as independent. And this, as with all our elements of wellbeing, applies to both pupils, to staff and to parents and carers who are all connected within the school community. We wanted to briefly get you to think about how agency might change depending on the age and stage of the child. Just to give you a brief overview, thinking about the early years, when we think of this stage, we primarily think about children seeking agency over objects or things. You will have often seen children of this age delighting in what happens when they press a button or when they hit a whack-a-mole toy. This is cause and effect and they have agency. Classically, at this age, we often think of children having tantrums, which are often due to them not having agency, having to do something they don't want to do, or not being able to do something they do want to do. As children grow, this may change, and agency can show itself as relating primarily to other people through a desire to be part of groups and development of their own interests and hobbies. And finally, as children grow into their teenage years, there is more drive for individual agency and a sense of autonomy, which might show itself through a drive to show their own identity, for instance, by customising their uniform. How often do young people leave their shirt hanging out, make their tie too short, not wear their blazer? It could also include risk-taking to gain a sense of agency. And it might include activities that create a sense of putting an individual stamp on the world. How do they make their mark? So again, we just ask you to pause for a moment and think about some of the behaviours you might see in your settings that could link to a need for agency, keeping in mind the age and stage of the child. What are some of the behaviours you might see in your setting that are agency seeking? We'd love to hear your thoughts about this, but just to give you a couple of examples, some themes might include rule breaking around uniform, or more generally rule breaking in high school, or tantrums or arguments over how games should be played or what should be played, and so on in primary school. Pupil voice provides pupils with the opportunity to become involved in how and what they learn, giving them a real say in issues that affect them, allowing them to make positive contributions towards the development of their school as active members in a democratic society. Pupils are invited to play a vital role, participating in their education, becoming involved in important decision making around practical issues such as uniform, extracurricular activities, as well as school development, culture, wellbeing and ethos, alongside academic and pastoral issues such as anti-bullying and behaviour. However, pupil voice is not just a school council deciding on the colour of a wall. It's about ensuring a true representation of all pupils and staff, and offering an opportunity for all to contribute, discuss and decide on pivotal issues which can then be relayed to the whole school community. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child includes nurturing a sense of agency in young people by providing them with the opportunity to express an opinion on something that directly affects them, and for that opinion to be taken into consideration. Article 12 states that children should have the right to say what they think should happen and be listened to. This can throw up some dilemmas. Some of our colleagues within child and family community psychology offered workshops to school staff reflecting on some of the dilemmas for schools in upholding these rights or wanting to ensure that there are clear boundaries. They used ideas from Circle of Security, which is a programme for adults who support children to help them promote secure attachment relationships. From their research, they would argue that listening to children and taking them seriously doesn't necessarily mean agreeing to all of their requests. The folks at Circle of Security would suggest that the adult can still take charge in a kind way whilst hearing the child's voice and helping to organise their feelings. To bring it back to our young people, we wanted to share the voice of another pupil from a school community in Gwent, who said that it means that I can make an impact in this school so that when I leave, I will know that I have changed something. It makes me feel happy. It makes me feel included. Again, this reminds us that agency can also influence other elements of well-being, such as a sense of belonging. As we said earlier, in addition to having a voice, another aspect of agency is for everyone within the school community to feel valued. Agency is not just about academic learning, it is also about feeling valued for the things that are important to you, the unique contribution everyone can make to the school community. Traditionally within education, there is a natural tendency for certain qualities to be valued within pupils. By its very nature, schools value academic success, as well as perhaps more performance-based successes such as the school team winning a football tournament. For staff, school cultures are inevitably influenced by Estin and a focus on performance and outcomes, which perhaps leads to other qualities and skills that staff bring being overlooked. Again, we'd like you to pause for a moment to think about how different qualities, strengths and skills are valued within your setting and how some might get overlooked both for staff and for pupils. Think about what is already happening in your school community to help pupils and staff feel valued. Think about those qualities, strengths and skills that might get overlooked or that don't attract awards or certificates or aren't valued academically. What would need to happen for every member of a school community to feel that they are valued in some way? Again, we hope that pausing for a moment to reflect on feeling valued has sparked some thinking about your own school community. We wanted to include a final pupil voice here. This young person from a Gwent school community spoke of someone taking the time to talk to me makes me feel valued. It makes me feel special. This reminded us of how a sense of agency can also help promote a sense of feeling cared about, in line with one of our other elements of well-being. We would add that the same goes for being asked for your opinion and for someone noticing your interests and strengths, whether they relate to academic strengths or other qualities. So in finishing today, we wanted to leave you with a little more food for thought. We'd invite you to think about your own school setting in terms of agency. What's working well already? Where are the gaps or barriers? What do pupils have agency over at the moment? Are there any areas where issues that could relate to agency often arise? That might include things like uniform or seating, choices at playtimes. Are there any other areas where pupils could be offered more agency? Then we'd invite you to think about staff, think about your own agency and whether you're able to create any more for yourself or for others. And then finally, leaving you with thinking a little about parents and carers as an important part of the school community. Are there any barriers to them having a voice? Within Cynefin, we've taken learning from research and have lots of thoughts and ideas about embedding agency across your school communities. So we'd love to come to think with you in your settings about this. Either we'd be happy to offer a more in-depth training session or to meet with your SLT to think about developing this element that is so important in underpinning whole school wellbeing. We'd like to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy lives to listen today, and we'd be more than happy to meet with any of you soon. If you have a few moments, we'd be really grateful if you could scan the QR code to complete our evaluation form. That helps to ensure that everything that we offer is as relevant and as timely as possible. So we'd really welcome any feedback. If you scan the code and then you click on professionals and then on the next screen click on training, that should take you to the relevant questions. Just for your information as well, that there are some references in relation to agency on the following slide. Thanks again for listening.